Before we begin, thank you very much to Seth, just Seth, for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you to everyone who helps keep this channel alive, even if it's just $1 at a time. I really appreciate it, and it all goes into just making everything stay on track, really. I was going to say better, but let's be honest, it just keeps it going is what it does. But I'm glad everyone's enjoying it. There is a lot going on. Like I said, we've got a Lego there's a contest for Lego Optimus Prime I'm running. Go watch a previous video for details on that. We hit 800 videos in a row. That's huge, etc., etc. I got a lot that I'm working on for next year. We'll make a whole announcement video for that soon. But today we need to talk about something else that came out that we can do my favorite thing on this channel, which is wildly speculate with absolutely nothing to go on whatsoever. We can just go nuts and lose our minds here. So there is a listing now for the next Commander Class Studio Series figure, and it is none other than Optimus Prime himself. Now, this should be pretty obvious. This should have been pretty obvious. You know, Studio Series 86 has been mostly dedicated to the 80s, the 1986 toy line and getting modern versions of them out. This, on the other hand, we should have seen coming. Like, if they're doing literally everyone for that movie, of course it's an excuse to do an Optimus Prime at some point, and they're going to do it at Studio Series' most expensive size class. So, what are we getting here? We have no idea. We have no idea. All we have right now is the product code, the EAN number, and everything else is just speculative. So we can take a little bit of what they've been doing recently and kind of learn from that, and then we can wildly speculate on what actually is going to happen with this toy. For starters, let's talk a little bit about the first time they did a Studio Series Commander Class, also the most recent time. Ultra Magnus. I got this one in hand. I will be honest with you, I'm starting to wonder if I just don't like Ultra Magnus's design. Which is weird, considering I've bought most of them. But overall, I'm not terribly thrilled with it. Compared to what I got out of Armada Optimus Prime and Motormaster, I feel like it is desperately lacking as far as just being a Commander class worthy toy. The only real trick it's got going to it is, okay, it's got a matrix chamber, that's fine, and it has the disassembly gimmick, which is okay. I mean, it definitely does represent a scene from the movie, at least, but it's not like you can dismantle him to the point where, like, he's fully destroyed like he is in the movie. But overall, it's just a really big toy. It doesn't have the play value that the other Commander class toys have had. It's really complex, don't get me wrong. Like, it has things about it that I feel like are straight out of, like, Masterpiece or third-party playbook. But overall, I don't know. Overall, I think it has issues. Overall, I'm not nearly as happy with it as I am other Commander class toys. So if we're taking a little bit from that, Optimus Prime has technically even less to do than Magnus, so it's kind of an uphill battle here. Let's take, for instance, let's take a look at what was previously the definitive Optimus Prime toy, this being the Earthrise Optimus Prime. This is, for a retail level Optimus Prime, really, really good. Now, it does have its flaws. It is a partial remold of the Siege Optimus Prime, so it does have some extra engineering stuffed into its legs that it doesn't actually use. To its detriment, by the way, because it would have provided a cleaner looking robot mode, which is definitely something I expect the Studio Series Commander to do. But it also has a few other weird issues. This is original stock photo. Between then, like, they made the hands blue after this. Looking at its eyes, it might not even be the original normal one. I pulled what was on Amazon. I pulled the image off of Amazon. But for what it is, this is a really good toy, but there are still a few issues. There's a little bit of kibble on the back that you could possibly clean up. Its trailer doesn't do anything. And proportionally, things on this toy are actually off. Optimus Prime himself looks kind of long-legged and a little bit thin in his proportions compared to where I'd like to see him. And the trailer itself is undersized. Once you actually put the two together, it is really apparent. It's really apparent how short the trailer is for what it's supposed to be. This was, a really good Optimus Prime, though. It's still a really good Optimus Prime with a really clever and fun transformation scheme. I wouldn't mind them using that again, if only so they can smooth it out even further and kind of fix just the little bits that are still weird with it. Now, that's not the only place they could draw inspiration from. This is the hurdle. This is the hurdle they have to clear. It's already a pretty good hurdle, so they got to make a pretty good leap. But in this case, they could take some nods from MP44. It's not outside the realm of possibility that this is just a smaller MP44. We've seen Hasbro actually go and do things like that with the Generations line, where they will take lessons and engineering tricks they figured out from Masterpiece releases, and they will drop it into Generations figures. The inside-out leg transformation that Masterpiece Sideswipe does, for instance, I've seen Generations toys do something similar like that. It's a really clever trick, and there's modern toys at the retail level that implement it pretty well. I can imagine them taking some of the engineering aspects from this toy. Now, obviously, it's going to be way less complicated than this. It's going to be way less complicated than this. But it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see some similarities between the two. Now, as far as what the toy has to be capable of, keep in mind, this is going to be focused on the 86 movie, but it also has to be a definitive Optimus Prime. This has to be a piece that Hasbro can reissue a decade from now for the 50th anniversary and so on and so forth. So I'm looking for it to actually get as much right as possible as it can possibly do, but it also has to have a focus on the depiction in the 1986 movie, because that's where it is. Things that could get gated off from the mold for future releases, things that are just not necessary to just do like a nostalgia piece for the 50th anniversary, etc. But I think this is the figure where they should have that in mind. With that said, posability has to be at an all-time high on this figure, because it has to do this, right? And it's not the most complex pose, but there's a lot of things that you have to do correct on the Transformer in order to actually make this look correct. It has to do the pose. It has to do the pose. So expect a high level of articulation. I'm looking for things that we've seen in a lot of modern figures, like, Studio Series Magnus has butterfly joints. I would expect butterfly joints in this Optimus Prime. I might expect an ab crunch. I will definitely expect some double jointing in the knees and the elbows. If you're trying to replicate some poses from the movie, that's going to be a necessity. So articulation obviously has to be a lot higher than typical. Let's talk about the trailer and what the trailer actually has to do. Well, for starters, it has to be colored correctly. We know that that is inaccurate for this. The details on it have to be corrected. We never saw the inside of the trailer in the movie, but if we're going to work in as much as we can for Optimus Prime and make this a definitive release, the repair drone has to actually be blue. It has to have, at the very least, fake missiles that can be attached and detached, so it has the correct look. And as far as like the trailer itself goes, I'd love for them to come up with some extra functionality. I expect this thing to have a lot of accessories. It would be nice if the trailer actually had ports or even containers inside that could store away, the guns, the whatever this is all going to come with. That for me is going to be really high up on the list as well. I mean, let's be honest, the trailer isn't supposed to do much and can't really do much. I would expect it to at least be big enough to store a deluxe inside so it can actually function the way the trailer is designed to function. That's the only hope I have as far as the trailer itself goes. I want weapon storage, and I want to be able to keep at least something a little bit bigger than Bumblebee inside it. Not universal every Autobot car, in Generations, or, you know, or Studio Series at this rate, but at least some. You know, at least let me put one in there. You know who really has to be in here? And this is something Earthrise did not do, and a lot of people were annoyed by it. We need a roller. We absolutely need roller in this. It's kind of a shame the poor boy did not really get to shine in the Generations line. You had to buy a figure that came with an accessory set in order to get roller for your Earthrise Optimus Prime. That's annoying. That's really annoying. You know, it was like a $50, $55 figure that didn't really seem to have much. It had a big hollow box with it. You would think they'd have the budget to do, like, even if it didn't roll, it'd be weird to have a roller that didn't roll. But, you know, even then, even if it was just a static piece, at least it's something. At least it's there. And I'd love for it to be able to do more than just roll, you know? We'll get to that in a bit. I have a crazy idea. But hear me out. So when I started thinking, like, what could it come with? I started looking at MP44, because that is an accessory-loaded take on Optimus Prime. So the things you're absolutely going to see is you're going to see the Matrix of Leadership, of course, which better be a new mold. They've been using the same mold for the Matrix of Leadership for a ton of toys now. And I'm really hoping that we get a nice ion cannon, because for some reason they meddle with that design a lot. You saw on the Earthrise one, the barrel of it is like massive because they wanted to fit a blast effect. Also, they did like a fold-in-half trick on it. As long as it looks like it's supposed to from the movie, you can use his rifle for whatever you want, but just make sure it looks correct, okay? Aside from that, the iconic stuff is going to be included. The Energon axe especially has to be there. I wouldn't be surprised to see the jetpack as well. Remember, it's not just what happened in the 86 movie. It has to be an overall Optimus Prime. The fuel hose, I don't think you're going to see. Not only because they try to avoid rubber parts like that, but also it's not really going to do anything. It's always been just like a weird leftover from the Diaclone release. I don't think you're going to see it. Could be wrong, but I don't think you're going to see it. I also don't think you're going to see the Starscream disguised as Optimus optional kit. I think that one's out of the question too. Any of the weirder accessories, you know, like the stuff Super 7 did for Ultimates, so no basketball, no surfboard, nothing like that. If we're going to talk about stuff that you will get, including stuff that you do not actually see here, expect a flight stand. Because you will have people that want to recreate the big leap over the Decepticons from Optimus Prime's final charge. Because that's the cool moment. So expect a display stand that can actually replicate a lot of that. Be hysterical is if you could swap out the front grille for one that had thrust reflected in it. They're not going to do that, but it would be hysterical. But expect a flight stand. I absolutely expect a display stand in this. Here's one you know they're going to do. Brace yourself for it, because you know it's going to happen. Blast effects. I know. But you know, the second I bring it up, you go, oh no, oh no. Oh no, they are. It is Hasbro's favorite way of bulking out a Transformer and trying to justify the price by putting in about $4 worth of plastic. You're going to see it. Now, here's the thing. There are certain ways I would accept the blast effects. Now, some cannon shots, yeah, we're going to see some energy blasts that you can stick to the end of the ion cannon. But you know what would work? There's two that I would accept. One is going to be this, because Optimus literally blasted off at the beginning of that fight. So I would like to recreate this, please. But also, one of the blast effects actually represented the damage to Optimus Prime. I don't want the Earthrise version of blast effect damage, by the way, with the little like pimples all over Optimus Prime's body. That's going to look ugly. We want this to be a pristine figure. We want this to really represent Prime and be something that Hasbro can use forever. So how about this? It's like an image from Sabertron.com. I tried to avoid using it because their galleries are their big thing, but I literally couldn't find any other visual example on the internet. But what if it was effect parts that replicated some of the blasts that Optimus Prime took during the battle with Megatron? And they latched onto him rather than pegging on, so you keep a nice, clean look for the robot, but you still get this like mid-combat thing going on. I think that would be really cool. Blast effects like that are kind of rare. They're kind of rare, but in this case, they'd absolutely work, right? To that effect, I'd like it to go a little further. I would like swappable parts that actually showed the damage. Yeah, I don't want permanent battle damage. I don't want just one head that has the battle damage and he looks like he's just like at the very end of the fight with Megatron. Later on, as like a store exclusive or something, you could do that. You could remold it so the midsection has the big gash on it so that he has all the little cracks sculpted in, so his helmet looks bent up and all that. You could do that as just like a final battle Optimus Prime down the road. But in a package like this, if we're trying to do new stuff and we're trying to make this worth the $90 they're going to ask for it, I'd rather just have swappable parts. Like, just not everything, but like the chest, that piece on the side, and his head. If I could swap those out and show him like really tattered and battle damaged, that would be super cool. I would accept that. Let's go a little bit weird. Let's go a little bit weird, and we'll try to predict what other like just super odd things they can do. One from the movie and one not from the movie. So from the movie, we could be getting his command station. This would fall into line with things like Coronation Starscream, who I know is leader class, but you know there's precedent for them just including big thrones with their figures. Deathsaurus is about to ship out, and he's got a big throne in with him. I could imagine this as well. Now, obviously, this is a lot more simple, but as a display-based kind of thing, or as a component of the flight stand. You know, imagine if this is actually what they base the flight stand on. I could see that. I could actually see that. So that is a possibility. It's a very outside possibility, but it's there. Here's the crazy one I mentioned before. So if you're going to include this, even if this isn't going to have like 86-centric stuff, like battle damage parts and like this command station, it will have the repair drone and it will have roller. And you know what I want? What no Optimus Prime toy has done before? I want this. I want this from Fire in the Sky. It's the only time it ever appeared. It's not roller, and it's not the repair drone coming out all on its own. It is absolutely a unique design. However, the elements are here. Imagine that roller. Imagine if roller actually had the ability to like transform inside out and take on something a lot closer to this shape. Imagine if the repair drone could transform into something more akin to what you see right there on the screen. And imagine the two could combine and we could have this. We could absolutely have this. Super weird, I know. But it's something that would actually give it more play value, and that's what I'm looking for out of a commander class. I'm looking for play value, which is one reason why I didn't like Ultra Magnus so much. He's just big. For $90, he's really just big, and doesn't really do a whole lot just beyond be big. This is cooler, though. I think this is a lot cooler. This would actually give Roller and the drones something to do, and it would make it an overall more viable package. That's what I've got for now. Like I said, this is wild speculation. What I think is going to be in there. It's not going to be all of the things I mentioned, but these are directions that it can go. I think the more interesting discussion that we could have from this is, if you're going to do Prime, you have to do Megatron, right? If you're going to do battle damage on one, the other one has to have battle damage parts you can swap on, right? So you can talk about accessory count that way. Megatron's not going to have as many accessories because, well, you know, outside of like the lightsaber and the gun that killed Prime, he didn't really use anything else in the movie. You can do the same thing, throw in the mace, throw in a Kremzeek, etc. But point being, he doesn't have a trailer and he can't turn the gun mode. So what do you do with an 86 Megatron? That's a discussion for a whole other day. Inevitably, we're going to get that, and we will discuss it then. But for now, that is going to be the video. Please speculate wildly in the comment section. That's the fun of things like this. And as always, I will see you next time.
We parlay with the captain.
You think a werecroc is going to listen to elvish rules of piracy?
Of course it would be the freaking elves that invented parlay.
I had to think of a quick replacement for the French.